So welcome again, everybody, to our training for CACFP applications. This training is for anyone who operates the Child and Adult Care Food Program. So hopefully you feel like you're in the right place. We will be walking you through our new application system that is called PrimeroEdge. So our agenda for today for this training, we will start with an introduction to PrimeroEdge. We will be going over the resources that we've made available for you to help you navigate this new system. We will be doing a comprehensive walkthrough of the application process, what the application looks like on this new system, and you will actually be given time on each section that we're going to go through to begin working on your application and start typing stuff into your application in PrimeroEdge. Our goals for this training are that you will know where to find resources on how to use PrimeroEdge. We know this is a new system for everyone, so we are not expecting people to just pick it up intuitively. We've put some things together, and hopefully with those resources and this training, you will be able to successfully navigate PrimeroEdge in this first year. By the end of this training session, our goal is that you will have started your CACFP application in PrimeroEdge for the coming year, which is program year 25-26. I really want it to be clear that we don't think anyone is going to finish their application during this training just because it's a new system. There are going to be some things you might not have access to, or we might just only give a couple of minutes for the section that we're working on, and it might not be enough time to finish that section, but then you'll be able to go back on it or get back to it and finish it on your own with the resources that we've got and having become a little more familiar with it. So this is just an opportunity to get started in the new system and what the application looks like, and then continue working on it after this training. So a brief introduction to PrimeroEdge. It is a provider of child nutrition software for state agencies and districts or sponsors across the country. Child nutrition programs includes like the National School Lunch Program, so a lot of school districts and charter schools use it. And then, of course, our program, the CACFP. So we've got daycare centers, childcare centers, community organizations that also use this system because that's part of child nutrition. So moving forward, this is what we're moving to. We will be using PrimeroEdge to manage our annual contract renewal process. That's where sponsors will be submitting claims. It's where we will do our reporting and all of that. Really, PrimeroEdge is going to be replacing CMP Web entirely, and we're moving everything over. So the reason we are moving to this new software system is because our contract with CMP Web is actually ending. So we are going to finish up program year 25, which is the year that we are in now. It ends on September 30th. We're going to be finishing that year up in CMP Web, but then starting October 1, and that's the application that we are working on now, and going into program year 26, we will be using PrimeroEdge for everything. So when you submit your October claim in November, that will be done in PrimeroEdge, and that will be the first claim that people submit in PrimeroEdge for program year 26. Something to note that makes Utah pretty unique is that we are the first state agency in the country to implement the full suite of modules that PrimeroEdge has to offer. So we are getting the CACFP module with applications and claims. We've gotten the school nutrition module with application and claims. We've been using the food distribution module for a while now. We are going to be doing our reviews in PrimeroEdge. So everything is switching over to this new system. And we've already been working pretty closely with them for going on 2 years at this point, as we've discussed our needs, as we've learned each part of the system and worked with the developers to make sure that our needs and program regulations are covered in the system and that we can get everything up and running the way we need to. A couple of things to keep in mind with PrimeroEdge. It is less flexible than CMP Web. You'll see that it looks a little different. There are different questions and requirements, the way it's laid out in PrimeroEdge compared to CMP Web. Questions are worded differently and it's organized in a different way in CMP Web. Because of this, there is just a little bit less flexibility than we've seen in CMP Web. So for example, if a sponsor needs to open or change something in their application, that does take a little bit longer in PrimeroEdge than it has in CMP Web. I feel like I might mix up PrimeroEdge and CMP Web as I'm saying them here, so someone let me know if I say the wrong one. Um, so there are just a couple of things because of the differences they work that CMP Web has offered things that maybe moved a little faster, and as we move to PrimeroEdge, they'll just take a little bit more time. So we will try to keep you aware of that. And it's really just a means of keeping in mind that you want to make sure that the information you put into your application is clear and that it's complete and accurate as you're entering it the first time to minimize the need to make those types of changes just because they will take a little bit longer. They have a few more steps. So just be sure that you're using the resources and asking questions where you need to make sure that we get the information in correctly the first time as correctly as possible. So, like I said, as we go through this training, we will let you know about some of the training materials we put together. We are recording this training and it will become one of the training materials that we offer. It will be available afterwards for people to refer to as they are working on their applications. We have also put together a step-by-step manual with screenshots and instructions that I will show you where that will be in online. We are just putting the finishing touches on it, so it's not linked quite yet, but it will be available soon after this training. It's really important that sponsors know about these materials and use them as much as you can because this is a brand new system for everybody, and this is the first year that we will be doing application renewals in PrimeroEdge. We have over 140 sponsors that are all learning this new system at the same time and all submitting their applications to us at the same time. And because of that, we just are not going to have the capacity to give really in-depth one-on-one help with every single sponsor that covers things that we are covering on this training or that are already covered in our training materials. So we are just going to encourage you to use them as much as you can. And then if you have questions outside of what's covered in the recordings or in our manual, then you can reach out to a specialist to get specific help that way. Or if you run into a bug in the system or something in your application doesn't seem to be working correctly despite using the training materials, you can let us know. We just anticipate that since this is a brand new system and it's our first time with it, some of those things might come up. So I do want to acknowledge that learning a new system always presents a little bit of, some hurdles here and there, and it's an opportunity to learn some new things. This is going to be one of those times where we're kind of figuring things out together just as we're putting these finishing touches on there. There are going to be things that maybe we haven't even come across in our testing yet that a sponsor does. And so we will work with the sponsor and with PrimeroEdge and the developers there to overcome those as needed. But again, let us know if something comes up that seems to be wrong with the system, something we can clarify in our materials or anything like that to make this useful for you. And then if there are bugs or anything like that in the system, we will work with the developers and PrimeroEdge to get them worked out. So a quick timeline as we kind of look at where we are and where we're going. Today, everyone should have access to PrimeroEdge, or maybe even earlier than today, but we've got the training happening today. And then for the next several weeks, you will have time to access PrimeroEdge, fill out your application and all necessary documentation, get things uploaded into the system. We will be reviewing information that sponsors provide in their application and follow up if we've got questions or if anything needs clarification, and then move that application into final approval. Our deadline that we are working towards as the state agency is to have all applications approved by September 30th. This is just to do our best to make sure that as we get into program year 26 on October 1st, that the applications are in there and ready to go. If there are any exceptions that we need to work with, we may need to do that on a one-on-one basis, but we are aiming to have those applications completed on our part by September 30th. I need to go back to the previous one. We've given a deadline for sponsors to get your application completed in PrimeroEdge by September 5th. So you've got the entire month of August to review materials and get into the system and begin working on your application. It is important to note that sponsors will not be able to submit their October claim if their PrimeroEdge application is not approved. You have to be approved in program year 26 to be able to claim in program year 26. So that October claim will require that the application is approved. All right, I'm going to show where some resources are in CACFP Central specific to PrimeroEdge, and then we will move into the application itself. I don't know if I click this link, if it'll take me right there. Did a PrimeroEdge screen pop up? Can someone confirm to make sure I'm sharing the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay. I'm actually going to start at CACFP Central. This QR code will take you to CACFP Central. If you don't have it, we can also include the links in the resources that we put out. But CACFP Central looks like this. If you go to State Forms and Resources, and then you can click on whichever one of these describes you best. The information I'm going to share is on all of them. I'm going to click Child Care Centers, and we've got a section at the top that is showing PrimeroEdge resources. So this is an infographic that I've sent out already in a couple of emails just for people's awareness, and you can look at that if you would like. If you need to request user access, you can do so at this form. It's a Qualtrics form, and we ask that that get filled out by someone who already has authorized authority with the sponsor, and that person can request for others on their team as needed. And then this is where, as soon as we've got the finishing touches on, we will have the CACFP PrimeroEdge application manual. I'm going to show you what it will look like so you can see how it's put together. It's a collection of screenshots and instructions, and it goes step by step through each section of the application with screenshots that show you exactly where to click, what something looks like, etc. I apologize, I'm looking to the side. I've got it shared on another screen than my camera is on. This is going to be just a collection of they're called scribes that we've put together. You can scroll down and see what they all are. I will click into some so you can see what they look like, or we will have this table of contents at the top that will help you jump to a specific section if you just need help on one part of the application. But if you go to the first one or any of them, it's got it broken down here, and this is a link to the set of instructions that cover that particular part. So this is how to use and navigate PrimeroEdge. When you click on this, it comes up on the side, and you can see that it's got a number of steps that are included in this section, about how long it takes you to complete these steps if you're going through it, and then instructions and screenshots that really take you step by step the whole way through. You can see that there's a circle or a colored circle that shows you where something was clicked on as the person was going through and creating the screenshot, so you can keep track of where things happening. It shows you the exact screen, what it looks like. It gives you instructions on the top of the screen, so you can read that for more context. You can close this and then go to the next one as you need to. So that's how the user manual is set up and created. And again, it will be here on State Forms and Resources of CACFP Central. Let me check my notes to make sure I've covered what I wanted to there. All right. And then this, I'll go to the user access form. This is what you can fill out if you need access to PrimeroEdge, whether you are not sure if you have access already or if you know that you need to request access. Sorry, I keep clicking on the wrong thing. It's just a Qualtrics form that has you fill out the particulars of you and your position within the sponsor, what program that you are requesting access to, if it's school nutrition programs or the CACFP, and then the level of access that that person requests. So if you know that you need to request access to PrimeroEdge, can I copy this from here? No, I cannot. Let me put the link into the chat right now. I've got it somewhere else. Where's my link? Okay, I cannot find my link to the.
I can find it, Nicole, and put it in there.
Okay, thank you, Nee.
It's
This.
Brooke, but thanks, Brooke.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for the help. I very much appreciate it. And now I can't maximize my Zoom screen. Sorry, I need to pull up my notes. Oh, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. That's the problem. Okay. Thank you everyone for bearing with me. Oh my goodness, and now I'm scrolling too quickly. All right. What to expect for the rest of this training. We are going to walk through the application together. I'm going to show you how to log into PrimeroEdge if you haven't already, but if you are already logged in and you already have it open, make sure that you follow along and you can work on each section as we go through that in the training. We will give dedicated time within each section, a couple of minutes for you to start answering those questions specific for your operation and your sponsor. Fill out your application to the best of your ability. Just note that, again, you're not going to have time to complete the entire application right now. There is probably some information that you might need to look up. You may even need to refer to CMP Web 2 or documents that you'll need to find and upload. Throughout this training, you can also ask questions. We have set up a Q&A chat in this Zoom call. The regular chat is disabled. I'll show you where to find the Q&A chat in a moment, but that Q&A chat just makes it easier for us to keep track of questions to make sure that we help everyone that needs the assistance. And if there are any we can answer live, we can do so. I do ask that as you're posting questions into the chat, please make sure that they are about PrimeroEdge or something you may need to clarify with the system rather than a sponsor specific or an operation specific question. We want to make sure that this training is applicable to everyone on the program and covers the PrimeroEdge questions that are going to be applicable to anyone who watches the training. If you have specific questions about how something applies to your sponsor or something about your operation or organization, then that can be covered with the specialist later. All right, the last warning before I go through a couple of walkthroughs. In this training, there may be some technical issues as you're working through PrimeroEdge or even as we are working through PrimeroEdge. There might be login problems. We might come across some system bugs that we thought we had worked through or are just learning about now. But if you see anything, you can put those types of things into the Q&A box. If something comes up that we can immediately help you with, we will actually put you into a breakout room with someone who can work with you, whether that's a user login or a very specific bug that we may need to get a screenshot or something of to share with PrimeroEdge. If you do put something into the Q&A chat then that requires that level of assistance, then we will move you into a breakout room with someone on the CNP team to just make sure you get your help. And we'll cover technical assistance there. Again, if you've got program-related questions that are very specific to your sponsor, you can wait to ask them for a specialist outside of this training. If you've got PrimeroEdge specific questions that are for the good of the group, definitely put those in the chat as well, and we can address them. So where to find the Q&A chat? Like I mentioned, the chat function is disabled, so you're not looking for that little conversation bubble with the dots in it. You are instead looking for the Q&A box. It's either if you don't see the Q&A box, the conversation with the question mark in it, if you don't automatically see that in your Zoom toolbar, it may be under the More option, and then it pops up and looks like this, and you can type a question into that chat. On our side, we can see all the questions that come through, and we can respond to questions that way, or again, direct to individual help if that's needed. You do also have the option of unmuting and sharing your question vocally if you would like.
Sure. Okay.
And where we can, if we see a question that will be beneficial for the training, we will try to answer it live and catch the audio on the recording. Otherwise, if we need to, we can also review the questions after the training and provide documentation for multiple sponsors as we see will be useful for everyone. All right, we are now going to log into PrimeroEdge. So if someone doesn't mind, because I don't want to mess it up again, if someone doesn't mind putting the login site for PrimeroEdge into the, I don't into the chat, that would be appreciated. I am going to open up PrimeroEdge myself and log in and show you what that looks like. But anyone who hasn't already logged in, you can follow the link. And this is where if you don't have access, you can type into the Q&A chat and we will link you up with someone who can assist with that. So I need to go to, you will see that as we are sharing our screen, we are going to be in our test site of PrimeroEdge to make sure that we don't mess up anyone's actual application. So on the screens that we're sharing, we may have this big yellow bar at the top. You should not have that big yellow bar at the top. You should have the official PrimeroEdge screen and no training testing warning. But as you log into PrimeroEdge, then you should be taken to a page that looks something like this. I need to go back and I'm going to give 2 minutes to make sure people can log into PrimeroEdge, and if we need to address any user access issues, we can. So I'm going to go back to the screen. All right. Continue to use the Q&A box if you are unable to get into PrimeroEdge, and we will address those as we can. But I am going to just show a little bit about navigating through the application. Sorry, I need to get my script up. Can someone confirm if this size is okay, or should I zoom in a little bit?
I would zoom in a little.
Okay. I'm going to zoom in to 125. Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. Again, I'm in the testing or training site. You may also, like when you log in, you'll see what modules you have access to. They might be different than the ones that I have access to, and that's okay. We've given everyone access to the modules that are applicable to them. If you are going through, I apologize, my script is on PowerPoint, so when I click on that to scroll down, it changes screens. As you are working through your application, if there seems to be a section that you think you should have access to, please let us know. But as far as we know, everyone's got access to the modules that are appropriate for them. So this is the first screen that you'll land on when you log into PrimeroEdge. Just a couple of things here. You got the module options on the left-hand side. There's an announcements section that we may use for information that we need to share with sponsors. There's also a messages section that might help you see when a change that you submitted has been approved, or if we've got a question that we need to follow up on, we may send things to you through PrimeroEdge. But you can keep track kind of on this dashboard of what is in there and available for you. If you do not have a program management, this is the one I'm going to say right now. If you do not see access to the program management module, please put that in the Q&A chat, because that is the one that we will be working in today. So if you don't see that one at the very least, please let us know and we can make sure that access is updated for you. Let's see. Navigating on just other parts of the screen up here in the right hand of this upper toolbar, there's a couple of icons. You've got a home page that you can click on that I believe just always takes you back to this page. There is a gears icon, which takes you into systems. And again, you will have access to things that are appropriate for your sponsor level of access and things that we've set up according to your user. But each of these becomes a drop-down menu, and you can see different things within each of them as far as what the options are there. There's also this little set of cubes up here in the corner. This is where you can quickly navigate to different modules. So it will pull up the same 3 that I had on my home page, and you can navigate quickly between modules there. And then this 3 dots also lets you sign out, look at your user account, and I just realized I need to log in as a different system. So bear with me while I do that really quickly. I need to log in as a sponsor. So everything else though is the same. Sorry, what was that? Is there a question? Okay. All right. Sorry, I need to move my script again.
Really quickly, sorry. It
Yes.
says, can you please type your question into Q&A, but the chat has been disabled, so we can't type anything into chat.
Yes, the chat has been disabled for this, so you can use the Q&A box for any questions that come up. That
Okay.
it's easier for us to keep track of things in the Q&A box to make sure that no questions go missed or overlooked.
It's on
Thank
like
you.
the bottom menu, the
Yes.
Q&A button,
Okay.
or under more.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Thank you for asking. I think a lot of people have logged on since we started, so. Okay. In the program management module, that's where we are going to be spending our time today. When you click on it, you'll see again some options on the left. Again, your list may look different than mine, but you can see options on the left, sponsor applications. This takes you to the applications for that specific sponsor, whoever you are logged in as. I am logged in just as a practice sponsor, so you will see that we are using a variety of practice sponsors for our training today. We are not trying to fill out that application for that sponsor, but we are in the test site, and that just makes it easier for us to show what the application is really like. You'll also see information about claimings that again, will be happening in PrimeroEdge. We will be covering that later when it gets to claim time, but just really to note that all of these options on the left are drop-down menus that have additional information in them. And then from here, everyone should be able to click on applications if you need to navigate to that. We are going into make sure you choose from the sponsor year 25-26. That's the year we are going into. This particular, I need to get a different sponsor. Sorry, everyone. Just went to the first one on the list, and it's not the one that we set up for this training. If you pick from the top year, if you need to, make sure you select 25-26. Right now, it's probably the only one there, but in future, as we get some years of experience with PrimeroEdge, you will be picking the sponsor or the program year that we are in. And then you can see the program applications that are available for the sponsor. If you click this down arrow, anytime there's a down arrow, anytime there's an arrow icon in PrimeroEdge, chances are if you click on it, it will unfold a menu or something under it. In this particular situation, it says where different sections of the application are as far as progress, if they've been started or if they're approved. So that can be really helpful in just navigating if you have to leave off your application and come back to it later where you left off. But if we click on the child and adult care link, it will take us into that application. And I need to go over to my next script. This general info tab is where we are going to spend just a few minutes. This is information that we have put in as a state agency when we imported information into PrimeroEdge. This is information that we pulled from CMP Web and filled in for you, basically. However, we do want to make sure that it is accurate and that it is covering everything that it should and that it is right information. So I do want to, I'm going to give you time to look through this, but I want to go through each section first. It's got address information, both physical address, like the street address, and correspondence address or mailing address if that's different. And then over on the sponsor information section are just some details that are specific about the sponsor. If it's an independent center, tax status, sponsor admin should be listed there. And in fact, some of you may see my name, Nicole Vance, because if we couldn't find a user to list in that, we just put one in to get things started and put my name in. So I'll show you how to update that if you need to. A UEI and other details are there. At the bottom of the screen, it shows which programs a sponsor is approved to participate in, what their program specialist is, and then we've got a defined approval level official for each sponsor. So, sorry, I need to move my script again. I need to make this bigger. Um, As you're looking through your general info tab, I'm going to set a timer in just a couple of minutes to give you some time to look through it. If you do see something that is incorrect, that we didn't pull over correctly, then you can choose Update My Info and submit a request for that information to be updated. Please only update physical address, or you can update the sponsor admin. The UEI, FEIN, and things like that, the numbers on the side are crucial for us to make sure they are tied to giving you correct reimbursement. So do not mess with those numbers. If you see something is incorrect, let us know and we will compare and make sure we get accurate numbers in there. But we want to make sure that no one's opportunity to receive reimbursement accurately is changed. So you can click Update My Info, and then it will make everything a text box. So you can type things in if you see a correction is needed. Again, you can try if a incorrect sponsor admin is in there, that is the person that is kind of the main contact for CACFP. You can try to type in their name. If they are a user for if they have a user account in PrimeroEdge, they will pop up. If they do not yet have a user account, then they might not pop up. So my name is a placeholder for anyone that we couldn't find, and we will make sure that we clear out my name by the time we get to application approval, and we know that user requests are being submitted all of the time. But after you make updates, you can go back up to the top and submit, and then we will see that page has been updated and we can review it. I am going to hit cancel for now, so I don't make any changes. But I am going to give everyone oh, there's my timer, hooray. Here's again a list of things to review, and then a list of things to not change. If you can let us know if you see some of those numbers on the right-hand side that are incorrect, let us know if they are that way. I am going to set a 3-minute timer for people to review that information now. Okay, I see one question. If there isn't a name under the approval level official section, is that our program specialist? Yes, you can just refer to your program specialist. Oh, when I do stuff in Zoom, it stops the timer. Oh well, you have time until as I go through these questions. If there isn't a name under the approval level official, then it will just be your program specialist. We may have missed entering the approval official for some sponsors, and we will get those in by the time as we are reviewing applications. Keep getting a red message that sponsor admin is required. So the sponsor admin does require a name to be in there for you to make changes. So if you are trying to put in a name that does not pull up, it means they don't have a user account in PrimeroEdge. And if that is the case, you can put in my name, Nicole Vance, and that will be a cue to us to follow up with those sponsors and make sure that we get a user admin for them. We are not going to approve applications that have my name as the sponsor admin. And then you can put my name in there and then let your specialist know that we need to look in that, or you can put it in the Q&A and we'll keep track of that, of the sponsors we need to follow up with. I'm seeing other questions. Tax status, you're either for-profit or nonprofit. We can look that up for you. It's in your CMP web application on your sponsor info sheet. So if you need to refer to that, if that information should be entered into the general info tab already. So if you see questions about that or it looks like it's not correct, please let us know. Contact your specialist. The general info tab, let me go back into PrimeroEdge. The general info tab when you log in is just the far left tab on your application. That's the one we are working on right now. If you don't see program management, double check if you've got it in your modules up here. And if you still don't have it, we will make note of that and follow up. I see some questions that they are unable to update the user admin. We might need to follow up with some of these on a case-by-case basis. So if you need to put a name into the sponsor admin spot just to move on, again, put my name, Nicole Vance, and that will be a cue to us that we need to follow up with those sponsors and make sure we get an accurate user admin listed there.
Good morning, Nicole. I'm trying to put my hand up, but my picture is not showing. I'm kind of confused and lost because I think I came in late. I don't have any idea on what we're doing right now. I'm so sorry.
Can we set up a breakout room and help with access there? We'll get you set
Yes.
up with someone to
Okay.
guide you to where we are.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so finish whatever you are working on in the general info tab, submit the updates if you made them or if you didn't end up making any updates. We are going to move on to the next section. This is where we are going to start going through guided walkthrough of the entire application. A couple of things that will be helpful for you to note. Save throughout as you're working on this. Since this is a new system, we want to make sure that people are able to spend time in the system and get used to it, but we don't want that to preclude keeping any information that you add in there. So on each page, there is a save button. We encourage you to save often. Also, you can continue to ask questions in the training. Just try to keep your questions specific to PrimeroEdge. If you've got sponsor-specific questions that are very unique to your organization, you can ask your specialist those. As we go through each section of the application, like I said, we are using some sponsors as demos for this training, and they are real sponsor names, but just note that if you happen to see your sponsor name on the screen that is being shared, it does not mean that the specialist is showing what is filling out your application for you, or that they are telling you what goes in your specific application. Every sponsor should be filling out their own application with accurate information. We might be using it as an example to show a specific situation or nuance of the program of PrimeroEdge. So make sure that you fill out your application accurately for your program. Also, just a note that you might see slightly different questions on your application than show up for the presenters. There are so many nuances in CACFP that we could not capture every single possible thing. Sometimes if you hit yes on one question, it will influence a question below on the screen, or even if you answer a question a certain way on one tab of the application, it will determine how questions show up on a different tab. So we have tried to capture a couple of different nuances, but if you see questions that are slightly different, it might just be the way that you've accurately answered questions in your application, and just make sure you go through the questions and continue to answer them completely. All right, so I think the option should be there now. There is an option for an independent sponsor presentation. That is for sponsors with one center. And there's a multi-site sponsor presentation that is for anyone with more than one site or more than one center. So you can click join on the one that is appropriate for you, and our team will be in there and we will start the walkthrough of PrimeroEdge. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A box here, or you can unmute and let us know what your question is. If we see people that don't sort themselves into a room, we will reach out and see.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Hannah Klinger, a child nutrition specialist at USBE. Again, hopefully you're in this room because you're an independent sponsor. If not, you can feel free to exit the breakout room. But again, don't accidentally leave the Zoom because then we'll have to readmit you and all that. But if that happens, it happens. Please save questions to the end because I'm going to take up the entire 30+ minutes of this breakout room, and hopefully at the end we'll have a little bit of time for questions and for you to also work a little bit on your application. As Nicole mentioned in the previous breakout room or the previous room, just be aware that you're probably not going to get through your application, but you can at least maybe hopefully get started. I have, I believe, Devin Parcell and Louise in here with me as well. So they're here to help if needed. So I'm going to jump right in. So as you can see on my screen that I'm sharing, again, this is the training testing site. And again, as Nicole already said, we're just using sponsors as examples. So if you're this specific sponsor, know that I'm not filling out the application for you. You're going to have to do that separately. Okay. So once you're in PrimeroEdge, this is what it should look like when you're in the application tab. Nicole already went through the general info tab. So we're in the application tab. So it'll show the district program participation, and it'll show number one, the operating dates, the start date, the end date, and the months of operation. So the operating dates, the start and end dates, the start date should be on or after October 1st of the current program year, and the end date should be September 30th of the following year. So an example, I'm going to put 10/1, oops, 2025. And I'm going to put end date of 9/30/2025. And then months of operation. Oh, sorry, not 25, 26. And it showed a little error, so that's nice. And then you're going to go to the months of operation, and you're going to select the months that you'll be operating the CACFP. So you'll do it specifically for your center. You do have the option to click check all. So if you want to check all, you can do that. If you're a sponsor that maybe closes for June and July, you can unselect those, that kind of thing. But for now, just for ease of everything, I'm going to keep these selected. I'm going to operate all months, and then we're going to move on to number 2, the facility types. And as you can see, this was already auto kind of populated and selected. So this is auto-populated based on the information in your sponsor functions in the systems module. So that should already be selected. Moving down, you've got number 3. It asks, is the site an unaffiliated center? So you'll mark yes or no and see how it drops down some different options. So if I mark yes, then the site is unaffiliated with the sponsor. And then if you select no, it is affiliated with the sponsor. And unaffiliated centers are sites that are owned by another business entity, but have entered into an agreement with a center sponsor for the management of their food service program. And then an affiliated site is a part of the same legal entity as the CACFP sponsoring organization. And then again, an unaffiliated site is legally distinct from the sponsoring organization. And if you have any interest, you can always refer to 7 CFR 226 for those definitions. And then if a site is unaffiliated, the sponsor will answer the following questions. So it will say, what is the tax status of this unaffiliated center? And then if you click the drop down, it'll give you 4 options. It'll be public for-profit, public nonprofit, private for-profit, and private nonprofit. So you'll just select which one applies to your center. So for example, I'm just going to mark public for-profit. Okay, moving on to number 4. So this again is an example. We're using this sponsor, so it should show your sponsor name. So it'll say, is your sponsor name pricing or non-pricing? And then you'll choose the appropriate pricing method for this facility, although it should be defaulting to non-pricing. So that's why this was already marked as non-pricing. And then for a little bit of context, pricing program means an institution, childcare facility, or adult daycare facility in which a separate identifiable charge is made for meals served to participants. And then a non-pricing program means an institution, childcare facility, or adult daycare facility in which there is no separate identifiable charge made for meals served to participants. Again, you can always refer to Regulation 7 CFR 226. Okay, moving on to the eligibility section. As you can see, it's in gray. So the first, number 5, the question is the center licensed? So if licensed, the sponsor should select yes and upload a copy of the license. The sponsor will also fill out the license effective date and expiration date. If not licensed, the sponsor will upload copies of the local health, fire, and safety inspection certificates and the food service permits or the health and safety. And then if not licensed, so as you can see, you've got yes, you've got no, and you can put NA as well. And if you select NA, then you are given the option to do license exempt program in the school. So pick whichever one is applicable to you, and then you'll just fill out the licensed capacity, license number, effective date, and expiration date as well. So we're just going to go, I'm going to go with yes, just for ease of everything. You do have the option right here to upload a copy of the licensing or approved authority. So if you click on that, it'll bring up this and you're able to upload a document. So for example, I'm just going to put some numbers in here. Let's say we're approved for a license capacity of 58. We are licensed. I'm just going to put 00000, see if it goes through. We'll put the effective date. Let's do July 1st. We'll do 7/1/6. See if it lets us with these dates. Okay. So moving on to number 6, what is the capacity of the center? So you're going to fill out the license capacity. So for example, we just put up above that it's 58. So we're going to put that there. Again, use your own numbers, use what applies to your center. I'm just using examples. And then on number 7, it asks for the ages of participants enrolled at this site, and then you'll check all that apply. So you can select all ages that this site serves. And then the sponsor can only select over 18 years old if the site is not an adult daycare center facility and serves persons over 18 years of age who are determined by a state educational agency or a local public educational agency of a state to be mentally or physically disabled and who participate in a public or nonprofit private school program established for the mentally or physically disabled. So you're going to click what applies to your center. So I'm just going to say, you also have the option to click all, but I'm just going to go through and kind of click up until age 12, just to show as an example. And we don't serve anyone over 12. I don't know why, we're just using that as the example. And then moving on, you've got the meals served and claimed for CACFP reimbursement section. So again, this is in gray. So the sponsor will select the meals the facility offers. The sponsor needs to select the meals in this section for the meals to be auto-populated in the meal service table, which I'll show you here in a second. And this will include the days and times meals are offered. So for this example, I'm going to mark breakfast and see how it auto-populates a little table below. And then you'll click AM snack if that's, also what you serve, and lunch. So I'm just going to say breakfast, AM snack, and lunch are the meals and snacks that I serve at my facility. And it created this nice little table for me. So then number 9 is the meal service table. And as you can see, it has column A is shifts, column B is begin time, C end time, and so on. So for shift meal service, if a center serves meals to children in shifts, so for example, if a lunch is served at different times during a day to 2 different groups of children and does not violate the authorized licensed capacity during each shift, reimbursement for the meals is allowed. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark no because my specific center does not do shifts. So because we're pretty small. And then for the begin time and the end time, the sponsor will enter the time each meal or snack starts and ends at the site. And we're going to kind of go over some meal times that are allowed and approved in Utah right now. So you can also refer to this information. We have a document on CACFP Central with the approved meal times, types and times for CACFP. So that is on CACFP Central. But for this purpose, I'm just going to kind of read through them. So for breakfast in Utah, you can serve between 6:30 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. For AM snack, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. For lunch, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. For PM snack, 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. And then dinner, 4:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then if you serve evening snack, it's 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And you can serve anytime within those approved meal times. And again, there's a nice document that lays them out on CACFP Central that you can access. And then just be aware there must be a minimum of 2 hours between the start of one meal or snack and the start of the next meal or snack. So the example I'm going to do for this is I've marked no for my shifts, and I'm going to say my breakfast is 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. I'm going to say my AM snack is That's a short one. So we're going to do 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. And then we're going to do lunch 11 a.m. because the kiddos get hungry. And we're going to do it to noon. Okay. And then you're also going to mark the days of the week that the facility serves each meal or snack. And if you serve all weekdays, you have the option to check this nice little Monday through Friday box and see how it selected all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, save myself some time. And then just be aware if you're an adult daycare center, offer versus serve is an option available to adult daycare centers, and it might populate something different on here, but we're working as a child care, so that option isn't available just for this example. And then for second meals, you're going to mark yes or no. So I'm just going to go ahead for ease of everything in this training. I'm going to just mark no for second meals. But if you anticipate serving second meals, again, you'll mark yes or no. And sponsors that are not using family style meal service may serve and claim complete second or excess meals. So long as they can demonstrate that they have adequate and accurate meal planning practices. So just note that a site cannot claim second meals for family style dining. If you're claiming second meals, you can't be serving family style. You must be planning appropriately, must be taking point of service accurately, and second meals must be distributed equitably. And then the sponsor should be planning on serving each participant one meal. They must also be approved to claim second meals in PrimeroEdge before they submit any meals for reimbursement. So just a little note on that. Okay, we're gonna move right along, moving to number 10. This one's a little tricky, but it's the number of meals expected to be served. So you're going to enter the expected number of total meals per month. And if you hover over this little blue eye icon, you can see that it indicates all meals per month. So that's how I knew that it has to be all meals per month. So for example, let's say that I have, my capacity was at 58, but I have 50 children that are enrolled, and they plan on eating 3 of those approved meals, so that lunch, AM snack, and breakfast. And they come about 5 days a week. So we're going to just get an average. So if you multiply 50 by 3 by 5, that gives us 750. I don't believe this number has to be super accurate. It's just kind of a projected what you're expecting to be serving. So I'm going to put 750 there as my estimate. And then moving right along, it'll be, so number 11 will ask, do you serve meals on holidays? So pretty self-explanatory. You'll select yes and identify all the holidays which you will serve and claim CACFP meals. Or if you're not serving on holidays, then mark no. So in this example, I'm going to put yes. I'm going to say, yeah, we're open on Columbus Day and we're open on Pioneer Day. So that just passed. So again, put whatever applies to your specific center. Okay. Then you're going to move on to number 12, and it asks, does this site charge for any meals separate from daycare fees? You'll put yes or no. So this may pop up for adult daycare facilities, and it might also pop up for at-risk. So it might look a little bit different than what I'm showing as this example, because this example is not an adult daycare center or at risk. It's just a child care center. But for adult daycare centers and at risk, it should pop up with a question asking what enrichment activity will be provided. And then it also for adult daycare facility types, if you are an adult daycare facility, it may also pop up with the certify question that you certify that the adult daycare center provides a structured, comprehensive program that provides a variety of health, social, and related support services to enrolled participants in a group setting outside their home or group living arrangement on a less than 24-hour basis. And then you're able to select both or either for the options. And again, this should only auto-populate if you're an adult daycare facility. So I'm just going to say, does the site charge for any meals separate from daycare fees? And I'm just going to put no in this example. And then moving on to 13, method by which meals will be provided. So you have the option of preparation at a meal service location. That means that meals are prepared on site. You've got preparation at central kitchen. That's when a facility that prepares meals for multiple sites and then transports them to the sites for any final prep. You also have the under contract with local school system or another sponsor. And that is when the sponsor receives meals from a local school system. And then you've got the option of under contract with a FSMC. And that's when the sponsor receives meals from a food service management company, so FSMC. So you're going to click which one applies to your center. So I'm going to just say, we prep all meals and snacks at our location. Moving on to 14, is a sponsor a private organization, yes or no? If no, the site will need to upload a letter from the IRS and cover letter which indicates that an application has been filed with the IRS, or documentation that the center participates in another federal program requiring nonprofit status. And then if you click yes, it'll indicate if the site is a Title 20 center or not. So we're just going to say yes, and we'll just say we do accept Title 20. Okay. Again, this is just examples, so do what applies to your center. And then number 15 does the sponsor, so it's going to be your sponsor name, now participate or has it ever participated in programs funded through the USDA Food and Nutrition Service in the past 3 years? If you mark yes, it'll pop up with this little add review record that you're able to click on. And again, you're able to add new records in there, kind of self-explanatory, or you can click no, and you won't be given that option. Moving on to 16, the style of meal service. So is it pre-plated family style dining or pre-plated family style dining combination? And then again, you have this little blue eye icon that you can hover over. So anytime you see these little blue icons, you can hover over them and it'll give you like a little description. So this one says this combination is for the same meal. So, and then be aware that the following questions, again, will only apply for adult daycare centers. So again, this is only a child care center, but for adult daycare centers, you might see questions that pop up that ask, does the site receive Title III meal funding or commodities supplemental meal program? And then you're able to click yes or no, and you'll select the meals that the site receives Title III meal funding, or if the site receives Title 19 Medicaid program, you'll click yes or no. Again, those will only auto-populate if you are an adult daycare center. So that's why I'm not showing an example. So for my example of my childcare center, I'm going to just say pre-plated, because that's how we run our business. Okay, so moving on to 17, provide an estimate of the racial ethnic makeup from sources such as census tract data, public school data, housing authority data, etc., of the population to be served. So just to note that these fields should not be left blank. So you're going to want to provide the most accurate estimate of this data. You can use the hometown locator for estimates of race ethnicity of enrollments at nearby schools in your area. So that is an option. So in this example, I'm going to say that I use the hometown locator, and it was just super convenient that there's just 2 of every race and ethnicity. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that. Okay, so again, you're going to put the estimate of the racial ethnic makeup in your area. Okay, moving on right along to number 18. This one ties into the above question. So it says, describe efforts used to 18A, assure that minority populations have equal opportunity to participate. And then it gives you the option to type in this box. And then the next question is 18B, contact minority and grassroots organizations about the opportunity to participate in the program, and you'll check all that apply. So just for example purposes, I'm just going to write again, this is just an example for this training. So I'm going to put that. And then for my 18B, I'm going to say that I utilize resource and referral agencies, and that I also utilize the YMCA, YWCA. Okay. So again, you'll click which ones apply to your specific center. All right, moving on to number 19. This is where you'll indicate your institution's preference for the fiscal year. So you'll choose either cash in lieu or the USDA foods of equal value. Again, if you hover over the little blue icon, it states that each program year, institutions other than sponsors of daycare homes are entitled to receive either USDA foods, donated commodity, or payments equal to the value of the USDA foods, cash in lieu of USDA foods. So it kind of gives you a little description of what those options are. So I'm going to put in my example, cash in lieu. And then I'm going to go to number 20. And as you can see, this is already selected. So it should default to actual. So the type of meal count should just default to actual. And if not, you'll just want to make sure that you click actual. On number 21, does your institution prefer to receive advance payments if funds are available? So you'll select yes if the sponsor requests advance payments. Advances are financial assistance made available to an institution for its program costs prior to the month in which such costs will be incurred. Advance payments will be reconciled monthly against the reimbursement earned. And then also if yes is selected, then the state agency will follow up with the sponsor. And you can hover over the little blue icon again, and it indicates that advances are financial assistance made available to an institution for its program costs prior to the month in which such costs will be incurred. Advance payments will be reconciled monthly against reimbursement earned. So, does your institution prefer to receive advance payments if funds are available? I'm just going to mark no. Again, just for ease of the training, but mark which applies. Okay, so if you are a independent center that utilizes vended programs, then you're going to continue on with these questions. If you are an independent center that does not utilize vended programs, then you can just mark NA. But for training purposes, I'm going to go down through each of these questions just to kind of show you what they'll look like when you mark yes, no, or NA. So again, you should mark yes if the sponsor works with the so for number 22, will the food service management company services be purchased? And this should be yes if the sponsor works with the FSMC, and then yes will trigger a vendor tab to appear after centers tab. And then if yes, the selected will also appear. So you can see that these little questions down here auto-populated. So you've got the competitive procurement method, and then you can choose between sealed bid, which is a formal competitive procurement method in which bids are publicly solicited, and a firm fixed price contract is awarded to the responsible bidder, whose bid, conforming with all material terms and conditions of the invitation for bids, is the lowest in price, also commonly referred to as an invitation for bids. And then you've got the option of proposal. This includes not only price, but also a comprehensive plan outlining how the supplier will approach and execute a project, allowing for evaluation based on factors beyond cost, like experience and qualifications. This is also commonly referred to as a request for proposal. And then you've got the option of small purchase. This is an informal competitive procurement method that may be used for the acquisition of goods or services if the aggregate contract or purchase value does not exceed the most restrictive of federal, state, or local simplified acquisition thresholds. And then you've got the public invitation option, which is public-to-public procurement, where a public entity may purchase a procurement item from another public entity. So an example of this is when a school food authority or a sponsor purchases a procurement item from another school food authority or sponsor. So SFA is school food authority, just for those of you. And then it has the question of how many invitations were sent. So we're just going to go with, I'll show you these examples. So you have the option of choosing how many invitations were sent. And then you're going to want to put in the response of how many responses were received. And this number should be the same or lower than the number of vendors that were sent invitations. And then you do have the option to add vendor. And the sponsor will need to add the vendor that responded to the invitation by clicking on add, the add vendor little blue hyperlink. And then you can select from the vendor from the drop-down list, indicate the yearly cost, check if they chose the vendor as their FSMC, and add any additional comments as needed. And then you'll click insert. So I'm not sure if this is fully set up. So, oh, this is what it'll look like when you add vendor. Okay. Moving right along, the next question is 23. Will prepackaged meals or snacks be purchased? So this should only be yes if the sponsor purchases vended meals from a vendor, if they purchase vended meals from another sponsor, or if they work with a FSMC, they should mark no. And then if you mark yes, again, these little questions will auto-populate. So they're the same questions as above. So you've got the competitive procurement method, that how many invitations were sent, and then the how many responses were received, and the add vendors button as well. And then on moving to number 24, will meals or snacks be purchased from another sponsor? This should only be yes if the sponsor purchases vended meals from another sponsor. Did I skip one? I think, sorry, I'm reading the same one. But they all look the same. I'm just gonna say yes on that one. Oh, we are on 24. Sorry, excuse me, I'm getting lost in my presentation. So number 24 is will meals and snacks be purchased from another sponsor? Again, mark yes if the sponsor purchases vended meals from another sponsor. If they purchase vended meals from a vendor, or if they work with the FMC, they should mark no. And then if yes is selected, you'll put which sponsor. And then you're given this drop-down menu. So you'll select which sponsor you're purchasing meals from in the drop-down menu. And then you can also click here to upload a copy, and that'll bring up that, and you're able to upload a copy of their vended meals contract with the sponsor. Okay, now moving on to 25. So number 25, will meals or snacks be sold to another sponsor? If the sponsor is selling vended meals to another sponsor, they should mark yes. If yes is selected, the sponsor should select which sponsor they are selling meals or snacks to. So if you mark yes, then this little question, which sponsor, and then again, this little drop-down menu pops up, and you'll pick which sponsor. Or if it doesn't apply, you'll click no or NA. So just for ease of all this, because I don't want to fill out how many bids and all that, I'm just going to say we don't utilize vended. Let's see if it will let me do this. And then on number 26, it says SFA, again, that's School Food Authority / sponsor, which is what the term we use. But again, we're using this application system with NSLP and other programs we run as a state agency. So SFA sponsor comments, you're able to enter comments here. And then the state agency would put comments here, which we are unable to add because we're not the state agency in this example. And then if you go down, you'll see program officials, and you can add records when it says add new record. In the program officials, you can also hover over the little blue eye icon, and that shows that, or it says that the board chairperson or SINs you add here will also reflect in the board of directors grid in the management plan tab, and vice versa. So you're able to add that new record there and view the little blue eye icon. And then if you scroll down, you'll see the certification section, and the sponsor will certify that the information for the application tab is true and correct to the best of their knowledge, and that they will let the state agency know if any changes occur to the information submitted. You're also agreeing to comply with all state and federal laws and regulations governing the child nutrition programs. And then once the certification box is checked, the sponsor can, I'm stumbling over my words, sorry, can click the ready to submit button. So I'll show you what that looks like in just a second when I get through my little spiel. But that'll change the status of the tab to ready to submit. And if there are any errors or missing information, the system will not let you submit and will prompt you to fix the questions that need fixing. And this is indicated with a red border around the questions. So now, moment of truth, we'll see if I answered everything or if I'll get a red. Oh, it didn't do it. That's great. So we filled out everything accurately. If we missed a question, or we didn't fill something out or that kind of thing, then it will show a red border, and it'll tell you which question you need to address before you can move forward. So I hereby certify, and then see how the ready to submit turned purple. The save was already purple. Again, Nicole mentioned it. I should have mentioned it when I first started, but you can always save throughout the application. I would highly suggest saving as you go, just because if you do lose that information, you will most likely have to start from the beginning of the application. So definitely save as you go. And then the ready to submit, again, if questions are missing responses, they'll be bordered in red. And then you should be able to move on to the management plan tab. And then just remember to contact your assigned specialist if you have specific questions. Remember that you should be going through this training and all the available resources that we have available as well. But then you are able to contact your specialist.
Okay, so next we're going to go over the management plan tab of the application. Throughout this section, to ensure that you don't lose any of the work you complete, use the save button at the bottom of the page and save often. Okay, so you can see that there are three main sections: viability, capability, and accountability. Each section has a right-facing arrow that you can click to show the subsections. And then each subsection, when you click it, it will pull up a list of the questions. Once each section is completed and saved, a green check mark will appear on the right-hand side. So you can see that I've fully completed one section, so there's a green check mark that appears. Okay, we're going to start with viability. So you'll click the right-facing arrow and then click the right-facing arrow there. Question A, how long has your organization been in operation? Some of these are self-explanatory. I'm not going to give an explanation on something like that, but some of them I'll dive into a little more detail on. Question B, what other sources of funds are available to the CACFP if there are interruptions in program payments and/or fiscal actions against the organization? So some examples of things that you could list would include tuition, donations, grants, anything that you are using for CACFP. Question C. Describe your accounting system. Include the persons responsible, number of accounts, and locations of the accounting office staff and records. In the text box, you'll want to detail your accounting system. So some examples might be cash, accrual, or modified accrual systems. And mention the responsible personnel, number of accounts, and the types of records that you maintain. Question D. Does the sponsor maintain a separate bank account for facility payments? If no, describe how CACFP facility funds are tracked. So if you do not have a separate bank account for CACFP facility payments, you will need to explain how you keep track of CACFP funds. If you have a separate bank account, no explanation will be needed and the text box won't show up. Question E. How does the institution ensure that money is spent appropriately and only for CACFP expenses? In the text box, describe the procedures in place to ensure CACFP money is spent appropriately. Question F. Does your organization currently participate in other federally and/or publicly funded programs? Select yes or no. So if you select yes, a list will pop up with some possible options, and then you can also select other and type in a different program that isn't listed. Question G, list the publicly funded programs in which your organization and its principals have participated in the last 7 years. If you have not participated in any other programs, you can type in NA like I've done here. Question H. Has your organization submitted its most
Brooke,
recent? Yes,
sorry, can you zoom in just a little bit?
for sure. Give me 1 second. Is that better or should I do more?
I think go down one level. Because like right now it's not all on the same screen. Yeah, I think 120 or 125 is good. Yeah, thanks.
If it needs to be adjusted again, just let me know.
Okay.
Okay, question H. Has your organization submitted its most recent balance sheet or single audit to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse? So this question is only applicable to sponsors who receive over $1 million in federal funding. If you do not receive that much money in federal funding, you can select NA. For those that this is applicable to, please indicate if you have submitted your most recent balance sheet or not. If yes, you will need to enter the date. Okay. Question I, if you are a nonprofit organization, attach a copy of the most recent IRS Form 990 filed by your organization. If not available, explain why. So this does not apply to proprietary centers, federal and public institutions such as schools, universities, local governments, and churches. So this question is only applicable to nonprofit organizations. Everybody else can select this NA box. If you are a nonprofit, you will upload a document here. You can just press the browse button, select the document you want to upload. And then once you've uploaded it, press the save button so that the upload will save properly. And then once the documents are uploaded, they will appear in the Documents tab, which somebody will be going over a little bit later. Okay, so that is all for the viability section. So we're going to move on to capability. If you select this right-facing arrow, you'll notice that capability has two subsections. We'll start with the first one, organizational capability. Just know that some of the questions in this section may not show up for all sponsors. All right, so question A, a list of board of directors, their home address, and date of birth. So you will enter your board of directors by clicking Add New Record. Once this comes up, you'll input the information. Anything with the star is required. And then to save it, you'll just press Insert. If your organization does not have a board of directors, but this question still populates, there is a little NA button here. You can select that and it will make it so that you don't have to fill out the next several questions about board of directors. Question B. Does any member of the board have a financial interest in the institution? If yes, please provide details in the comment box. Question C. Does the governing board have policies or procedures for the oversight of the organization? If yes, please outline these policies and procedures in the comment box. Okay. And then question D, this one is actually currently the incorrect question. PrimeroEdge is working on getting this fixed, so they know that this question doesn't make sense with yes and no. You can just leave it blank for now. They're adjusting the question. The question that will actually be there asks if any members of the board of directors are related to this responsible principal. And same as the other questions above, if you select yes, you'll just complete details in the comment box. Okay, question E should be pertinent for everybody and it should be on everybody's management plan. So in the chart below, you will list the position that will perform the required duties in the operation of the CACFP. For example, if the director is responsible for ensuring that enrollment forms are updated annually, you will type in director, not the director's name. So you'll type in the title of who is responsible for completing that duty. Question F, Describe how your organization will maintain the confidentiality of eligibility information concerning individual households. Question G. For sponsors of 25 or more sites, upload documents for all employees performing monitoring duties, including the percentage of time spent on monitoring, along with your state's child and adult care food program addendum. So this question is only applicable to sponsors of 25 or more sites. If that is not you, you can select NA here. For sponsors who do have 25 or more sites, please upload documentation that demonstrates that you have adequate monitoring systems in place. If you need a template for this, you can contact your assigned specialist, and then make sure to click Save after uploading that. Question H, describe the need for the child care facility in your community. So this question is only applicable to new sponsors, which I don't believe that's anybody currently on this training. But if you are a new sponsor, you should explain the community's need for the child care facility. Otherwise, you can select NA. Question I, sponsoring organizations must include in their respective management plan policies restricting outside employment by all employees that interferes with an employee's performance of program-related duties and responsibilities or poses an ethical issue, including outside employment that constitutes a real or apparent conflict of interest. So you have the option of either describing your outside employment policies, or you can upload your outside employment policy. And then make sure that you certify in this box here that you are restricting employees from obtaining outside employment that conflicts or hinders with their assigned CACFP duties. Okay, and then I guess if you are an affiliated sponsor, you may select this NA button. Okay, so then we'll move on to organizational capability meal service. Question A. Describe how your organization ensures each facility meets the needs of a child or adult who has a medical condition requiring a food modification or special diet. In the text box, detail your procedures for accommodating special dietary needs. Question B. You will describe your organization's procedures for verifying that point of service meal counts are recorded at each facility. Question C. Does your organization disperse CACFP reimbursement funds to each unaffiliated facility within 5 working days of receipt of reimbursement from the state agency? So this question is only applicable to sponsors who have unaffiliated sites. For sponsors with only affiliated sites, you will select NA right here. For reference, an affiliated site is part of the same legal entity as the sponsoring organization, while an unaffiliated site is legally distinct and separate from the sponsoring organization. If you have any unaffiliated sites, please indicate if you disperse funds within 5 days of receiving the reimbursement. And then in the comment box, please explain your distribution process. Question D. Describe how reimbursement for facilities and providers are maintained separately from sponsor administrative funds. In the text box, please indicate your method for keeping reimbursement for facilities and providers separate from your administrative funds. Question E. Describe how your institution ensures that each facility adheres to the CACFP age-appropriate meal pattern. Question F. Reimbursement may not be claimed for any month in which less than 25% of a for-profit facility's enrollment or licensed capacity received Child Care County funds, Title 20, or qualified with free or reduced income eligibility. So you will describe how your organization verifies prior to submission of a claim for reimbursement that each for-profit facility qualified for the CACFP. Include a description of the forms that will be checked to verify eligibility, the specific staff position that will perform this check, and the steps used to verify this eligibility. Address both types of for-profit eligibility, so both Title 20 and free and reduced price meal eligibility. This question is only applicable to for-profit sponsors. If you are not a for-profit sponsor, you can select NA. All for-profit sponsors need to detail how they are ensuring each site meets that 25% threshold. Okay, we're going to move on to accountability, which you can see has 3 subsections. So internal controls training is the first section. Question A. New key staff will receive training on the CACFP requirements prior to performing assigned CACFP duties. You'll select the appropriate bubble to confirm that you will follow this requirement. Question B. Current staff will be trained on the CACFP requirements pertinent to their assigned tasks, at least once every federal fiscal year, which runs October 1st to September 30th. You'll select the appropriate bubble to confirm that you will follow this requirement. Question C. All key staff receive training not less frequently than annually. At minimum, such training will include instruction appropriate to the level of staff experience and duties on CACFP meal patterns, meal counts, claiming review procedures, record-keeping requirements, and civil rights requirements. You'll just select the appropriate bubble to confirm that you will follow this requirement. Question D, describe how your organization ensures that staff is sufficiently trained in CACFP policies and procedures. Question E, describe how representatives of the sponsoring organization will attend state agency training at least annually. For example, this could include attending trainings or viewing online trainings as required by the state agency, such as the training that we're currently in, or as required by the results of an administrative review. Okay, the next section is internal controls monitoring. Okay, if you are an independent sponsor, you're not required to complete monitoring, and so you can select this not applicable button here, and you won't have to answer the questions in this section. For everybody with multi-site, who is multi-site sponsors, you will need to fill out this section. So question A, check all the boxes below to certify that your agency will complete the required monitoring at each site. Question B, does your organization use review averaging? If yes, you will need to upload a review averaging plan. You'll just, same as others, browse and upload and then click save. Question C, a 5-day reconciliation will be completed during each review. Select the appropriate bubble to confirm you will comply. And then last question in this section, D, describe how your organization will follow up to ensure compliance to the facility's corrective action plan if corrective action is necessary at a facility. So in the text box, you'll explain your procedures for ensuring corrective action is being implemented according to the plan. All right, and then our last section, record keeping and eligibility. Question A, do you store records off-site? If yes, you will have to provide the name and phone number of 2 individuals with immediate access to these records. Question B, your organization must retain CACFP records for at least 3 years plus the current year. Indicate where documents will be housed. So you'll select Add New Record. You'll fill in the location and the address, and then you'll press Insert to save that record. Note that even if you're storing electronically, you still need to fill this out. You can write your record location, your electronic record location, and then how it's housed. Okay, question C, location of CACFP records. In the table under the question, you will indicate the location of each type of CACFP record as either central office, site, electronic or online storage, or not applicable. Note that you can select multiple, so if you store some of these records in several locations, you can select multiple. Question D. All centers participating in the CACFP must comply with the following. Check to note that you have read the text. So check the boxes to acknowledge that you have read and will comply with the requirement to prominently display the Building for the Future poster and the And Justice for All poster. Question E. Women, Infants, and Children WIC program information. Sponsors must distribute WIC information to clients. How will the sponsor do this? Check all that apply. So you'll select the applicable boxes for how you plan to provide WIC information to program participants. After you've finished the management plan, or if you've finished part of it and you want to come back later, just remember to click save or you'll lose that information. Okay, and then I want to show you really quickly. You can break down these to more easily see what's been completed and what hasn't. So you can see here that my viability section now has a green check mark as well. My capability does not. That means that I'm missing something in that section. I either missed a question or something hasn't been uploaded. You can also click ready to submit and it will tell you what's missing. So there's something missing in the capability section, and maybe one of my documents didn't get uploaded correctly because I didn't press save. For some of you, it's not showing on this one, but for some of you, you might have a box at the top here that says NA on the management plan as a whole. You can only click that box if you are a sponsor who administers the National School Lunch Program. Everybody else, hopefully you don't have that NA text box, but if you do, you cannot select it unless you're participating in the National School Lunch Program. So we're going to have about 5 minutes to work on the management plan. I know a lot of it is fill in the blank, so you might not get very far, but you'll have 5 minutes to start working on it.
Okay, that's the timer for the management tab. We are going to move on to the budgets tab next, and Louise is going to present that section.
Okay, we are now on the budgets tab. The budgets tab is a little bit more complicated than it was before. However, we're going to walk through that and hopefully you'll get some information that you can use. The one we're using today is for multi-site budgets, simply because the same information applies to both. There's just a little bit of differences for independent centers, and I'll go over what those are. So one more time, I just want to go over what an unaffiliated site is, and because I'm sorry, it looks like I am still in the independent site, not in the site I'm supposed to. So we're going to hide gel for just a minute. Guess all I really hid was me, right?
Yeah, we don't see your video anymore, but we still see your screen.
Okay. Everything kind of moved around here. So I'm going to go into applications, just follow my way through, just like you're going to do
You're good.
budgets. Okay. The reason why I want to go over unaffiliated again is because it really affects the budget. So an unaffiliated center is one that is where the food program is run by a sponsor, but the sponsor does not own the center. They're not legally affiliated. They just run the food program there. However, there are some special rules for unaffiliated centers that I'll talk about as we go through this budget. And you will see at the top here that says no more than 15% of projected CACFP meal reimbursement revenue can be used to fund administrative costs. That is going to be the difference. We only have a very few sponsors that have unaffiliated centers, and so this will only apply to them. But we are going to look at their claim estimator. So one of the things that's nice about this is before we had a calculation that you use, this uses a claim estimator that you can click on, and they're both the same. They just show up here. So this projected source of income box shows both for unaffiliated, affiliated, and if you were going to have just an independent center, you'd only have one line A here. Line A is your projected reimbursement for the coming year. One thing that you'll also see here is this little box that tells you how many affiliated and unaffiliated sites that you have. The Tier 1 and Tier 2 apply only to family daycare home sponsors, and we're not going to go over that today. So I'm going to click on the claim estimator. So one nice thing about this is it's really pretty easy. I thought it was going to be difficult when I did it, and it is not. So you're going to use your total estimated enrollment for however many sites that you have, whether it's a single site, whether it's your total unaffiliated sites, or your total affiliated sites. Those should be on your site sheets. Add those together. That goes here. Your estimated free and your estimated reduced is also going to be entered by you. You do not need to enter paid because that is going to be calculated by the software. You're also going to enter your estimated days of meal service, the days that you're open and you're claiming meals, and your estimated months of your meal service, whether you're open all 12 months, you're open 9 months, you're open 7 months, that's what's going to go here. Those of you who are doing only at risk, the after school meal program, you'll put your numbers here. And you don't need to have, so you'll put your numbers here. And you don't need to bother about any of the others since you have no free, reduced, and paid. Okay. The projected annual income will automatically calculate for you. And here is your save button. The other thing that you want to do is, in this box, enter your estimated daily participation by meal. So this is not independent, this is not an individual child, but the total meals that you expect to serve during each day. So that's just projected. You can look back under your what you've been doing so far, and that will give you some idea of what to put in here. If you're not serving a meal, just put zeros. You will notice that the evening snack is not in here for those of you who are serving it. That's just a little glitch. It will be put in later, but for right now, if you're going to use this, you're really using this just to estimate your claim reimbursement, and you can just add those evening snack numbers to either your PM snack or your AM snack, and that should be fine. You also not need to enter anything in your cash in lieu, and of course, if you're doing at risk, that goes down here. You'll notice that the reimbursement rates are already in here. The estimated monthly days of operation are carried over. And once this is done, it will estimate how much reimbursement you're going to be getting for this meal. Remember, that is estimated. Click Save, and it should save that information for you. but it will not automatically go back to the former page. You need to X out of this, close it. And then you will see that it carries over. So this is from the unaffiliated claim estimator. I also did one for the affiliated, the same type of thing. There were two sites that were affiliated, and you can see they had more enrollment. But it was really the same. It was the same principle. So at this point, I would just make sure you have your affiliated, your claim estimator, your estimated claim amount for the coming year for line A filled out. That's all you need. If you do not want to use a claim estimator, you don't have to. You can actually use the same calculations that we've done in the past, and that's where you look at, oh yeah, I look at my note. That's where you take the number of months that you've received your claim so far, average them, and then multiply that by however many months you intend to claim every year, and then add like a percentage, 10 to 15% to that. But I think this claim estimate is actually pretty easy, and I would do that. My recommendation, but not required. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at is completing the boxes, completing your line items. So these line items are the same as what you would have done in CMP Web, but there are a few differences. So first of all, I'm going to say that there's a projected expenses for administrative costs, which independent centers do not have. So you don't need to worry about it. For independent centers, you're going to be putting your administrative and your operational costs into the same operational box. Any multi-site centers will have an administrative cost box. And because there's unaffiliated sites and affiliated sites, then you have two, this is separated out into both affiliated and unaffiliated. The reason why is exactly what we set up here, is that this determines whether or not you're asking for more than 15% of your reimbursement to use on administrative costs. You can enter your numbers in here. Look back what you've spent last year. Don't just guess at them. You probably have information on how much you spent, and I would put that in here and increase it by maybe 10% or so, depending on what you think your costs are going to go up during this coming year. You do not need to fill out each of these. You only need to fill out what applies to you. For instance, there are very few sponsors, and I believe they're all dual sponsors or FDCH sponsors, who are going to be putting insurance premiums in here. The rest of you are not. This is just for a sample. But there's one thing that you do need to be aware of. Each of these, both unaffiliated, affiliated, and it's also going to be for your operational costs, are going to have a column that says, ask whether or not it's CACFP funded. It defaults to yes, fully funded. You need to change that. But what you do need to be aware of is if you put, just change this to yes, full, and you put your money in here first, your dollar amount, and okay, and then say it's partially funded, your dollar amounts, the figures will disappear. So be sure you select it first before you put any money in here. Otherwise, you have to redo that. The other thing you need to be aware of is that as you put in your dollar amounts, This CACFP expenditures is your reimbursement, is how you're using your reimbursement, and you have to use it all. So this totals, it's going to total all the way down, affiliated, unaffiliated, your administrative, and your center, your operational costs are going to total. That total needs to match what you have up here. So the total administrative money that you're using reimbursement for needs to match either the unaffiliated or affiliated, or if you're just a center and independent center and you don't have either one of these, it's just a line A, it needs to match whatever your line A is. Line A matches, that's your reimbursement you're estimating, matches however much you think you're going to be spending. And I know that last year that was a little bit challenging for a lot of people. It has been pretty much every year. So just keep that in mind. What you spend of your reimbursement needs to total your reimbursement. Okay. So you're also going to be putting in your money that comes from other sources. So the other sources are your tuition, your grant money, anything like that. Money that you need to feed kids and run the food service that the CACFP reimbursement is not covering. You're not getting enough reimbursement for it. And you all know that you're spending more money than you are getting in reimbursement. So once you can put all those in, add them up, and again, it adds all the way down. You need to make sure that your non-CACFP money, and when it's totaled, total it up and put it in here. So don't put this in first. Wait to find out how much money that is coming from other sources, then put it in here. You're also going to need to specify where that's coming from. Tuition, grants, wherever else it is coming from. This is your other income. It also has a miscellaneous income. You don't need to use a miscellaneous income. Okay. It says donations of grants, but you can all really put them in the same one: enrollment fees, state funding. We're not going to check where it comes from. Well, you will. Actually, we'll put it in there. So the other thing you're going to notice are your total program costs is $246,000. It adds it, $246,313. That cost needs to match your total income. So if it doesn't match, you are going to get an error message. So we're going to scroll back down here again. When you save, you'll get your first error message because the total income exceeds the total program costs. And why can't the total income exceed the total program cost? Because you can't save and use reimbursement elsewhere, and you need to have a nonprofit food service, right? So you won't be able to click "You're ready to submit" until you have solved all the matching problems, making sure you spent enough money. You just check and make sure I haven't missed anything here. So we went through this pretty quickly. Yeah. I think we're pretty much done with that. I went through it more quickly than I thought I would, but if you want 5 minutes to take a look at that and kind of play with it, you're welcome to do that. You won't be able to fill probably any of it in today unless you already have in front of you your financial information from last year. But you can have a chance to work on it and to at least play with it for just 5 minutes. So this is what it looks like. If you're just a independent center, this is all you're going to have. Just going to say claim estimator. If you're an affiliated, a multi-site affiliated, you own all your centers, that type of multi-site sponsor, they're still going to look at something like this. The only reason the other one says unaffiliated is to show you how they both looked, to show you that it would come up, so it wouldn't be confusing. So sorry, it probably confused you anyway. So this is what yours will look like if you're not, if you don't have any unaffiliated sites. So
I'm
I'm gonna go back.
also,
Mhm.
sorry, I'm going to address one other question that I've seen in the Q&A a couple of times. A couple of sponsors have said they've got two. So in that, keep sharing your screen, Louise. In the
Mhm.
projected source of income, that top box, they have two line A's,
Yes.
and I don't know why. Do you know why?
So two line A's, it depends on whether or not they're a multi-site sponsor.
Oh, okay. Did you have two line A's on the other one? I might have missed that.
So I
No.
have two line A's, but neither of them says affiliated or unaffiliated.
Yeah,
It
those,
says
Uh,
CACFP meal reimbursement without anything on each of them. And then my claim estimator, which you already addressed, you're going to look into that, but it's not working
yeah.
on either line.
Okay. I'm gonna see if it shows up on the one Louise has.
That's what mine is showing as well, same as Amy's.
Okay,
Two
two
line
line
A's,
A's.
meal reimbursement. It doesn't state affiliated or unaffiliated on either one of them.
Okay, and like Louise yours says A1 and A2. And I
this
think,
is, mhm.
but the others that have line A, it just says A, it says the exact same thing. They're not labeled A1 and A2. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, I am noting that. We'll need to follow up with that.
So was this helpful for anybody that I went back and looked at the independent center so that you know that yours will look different? Or are there still questions about that? The majority of you are independent centers. So I just wanted to make sure you know that, because when we did the breakout session, we had less than 30 people in the independent center and 60 some odd in the multi-site breakout rooms. And so most of you need to know that you are independent centers. Okay. There's some like Learning Tree. Okay, I remember Learning Tree because Amy, you just popped in there. So we do have some that are multi-site, but
We've got a good mix.
yeah. Okay.
Our 5-minute timer is up. So we've got just
Okay.
a couple tabs to go and they will move pretty quickly. So Louise, you even have the next one. So go for it.
Yep. So I have the Documents tab. Any documents, first of all, any documents you've already uploaded will show up here. So when you go to that Documents tab, you'll probably have some already there. If there's anything else that you need to add, it's very simple. And even though you've been shown before, I'm going to go through it again just because it's always good to see more than once. So if you want to add a new record, you just click on Add a New Record. Title the record. So this has like 3 permanent agreements already in here, but I have done this a few times. Okay. Click on the program, click on Browse, and this is going to a specific spot already because I've uploaded from this spot. You can browse to wherever your document is that you want to upload. That means that if you have anything saved, like your permanent agreement is still in your email or anything like that, is still in your email, you need to make sure you save it. Because only when it's saved into your hard drive will you be able to upload it. So I'm going to upload that CMP permanent agreement. It shows up there. I'm going to insert it. And it doesn't necessarily show up at the bottom like you would think. It's showing up here in the middle. And I don't know why it chooses where it's going to show up, but there it is. You won't be able to move on until all these are in submitted status. If you need to remove one, now I'm just going to tell you now that my remove is not working, but you should be able to click on the edit button, the title of whatever it was, because I clicked on removing one of the permanent agreements. Click on that. And down here it says CMP permanent agreement remove. And that should remove it. It is a little bug right now. It's not working for mine, and I don't know particularly why, but it is something that we've reported. But so it should be as easy to remove a document you uploaded by accident, but certainly as it is to upload a document that's new. It's very same as if you had reviews in the past and you uploaded your documents into CMP Web into the review module. No different. Okay. And that is that. You're done with this part, Nicole.
Okay. We're not going to do a practice I keep writing through my video on, for the documents just because we are getting close on time and we want to stick to that if we can. So the next section is the Certify Submit tab. I think that is Brooke, if I'm
Yes.
remembering correctly. Okay, take it away.
I'll share my screen. Okay, this one is a super quick tab. So Certify Submit tab, you will not be able to certify and submit your application until everything is in ready to submit status. So you'll see that on this top bar here. So all of your other tabs need to be completed, need to be in ready to submit before you can come over to this tab. So first, what you'll do is you'll go through each section. You'll read each statement and then you'll just click the box to certify that you are going to comply with each of the statements. So you do that throughout all of this. You'll come down to the bottom. Okay, you're going to enter the name of the sponsor, board chair, executive director, or somebody with comparable title. So whoever is in charge, basically, you'll enter their title and then the date. You'll need to make sure that you click this box here, certifying that the information is true and correct, and then you will certify and submit your application. And then at that point, it will come to us for approval. And that's all for my part. I think Devin is doing the last 3 tabs.
Yeah. These last tabs are really just applicable as your application is getting completed and you're getting ready to submit it to us, or just other parts. So there's not anything really for you to practice on them. That's why we're going through them more quickly.
Okay. All right. Can everybody see my screen? Does that look, I'm sharing it? Okay. Want to make sure before I talk to myself.
I would zoom in a little bit if you can. Like 120 or 125, whatever the number is.
How's that? Is that better?
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
Okay, good. Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to go over again, like Nicole said, the approval tab, correspondence tab, and then the history tab. And then some of you are probably seeing the vendor tab. I'll go over that in just a minute too. But the first tab is the approval tab. So basically, once everything has been completed, all the tabs have been completed. The state agency will review it and approve each tab. Basically, it'll put it into a final approved status once all of the other tabs have been completed. This tab is mostly going to be informational to you. You will notice here the effective claims tab. This will be the day, essentially the month that you will be able to start claiming. So, for example, when a sponsor is approved for the new year, so this October 1st, it will indicate October 1st, 2025. So that's kind of an example. And then there's other additional information about claiming percentages that's down here below. But again, it's all just informational. Information on review, indicator, vendor, but it's basically just for the state agency to complete. So I wanted just to go over that with you just to show you what it was so that you're not wondering what that is. Okay, so pretty straightforward on that one. The next tab we have is the correspondence, and this is a nice upgrade to what we have from CNP Web. Basically, it's a way for you to correspond directly to us rather than, if you want to call, you're always welcome to, or emailing, you can always email us directly. But this will give you a way for you to correspond with us. You can add new record here. You can also send a message directly to us and your assigned specialist or anyone here in the office. So you can send an email and you can actually choose who you can send it to. So you could send it to me, for example, type that in, and instead of going to your email, you can send it directly to our office. So it makes it really convenient, especially if you're in the system, you're looking for technical assistance. It'll assist you, and then it'll give you basically previous messages that have been submitted for your reference. So that's the correspondence tab, very informational, these three that I'm going over with you. And then I would say here, the next tab that I'll go over with you here is the history tab. And this is basically going to be a history of what you've done with all of your different applications, your tabs, basically giving you a history of all tabs with the status of each that's done something in there, who, and when when your application may have been reopened or when it was initially submitted, approved, etc. So this gives us an idea of when we've approved. It'll also give you an idea of when you've been approved by everything. So it's got application history, status history, so it's got the status, general info history. So just a lot of really good information that we didn't have in CNP Web that we will have now. Okay, so those three tabs, pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Not a lot you do here. Mostly the one that's the correspondence you might do. Okay, now the next section I'm going to look at here is the vendor tab. So this is going to be for a sponsor who has a contract already with a food service management company. Not to be confused with you as a sponsor who may be receiving meals and are paying for them that may be with, for example, a school district or school that might be on the National School Lunch Program, or daycare home sponsor, or sorry, a daycare, child care center that might be on the CACFP that you might be receiving meals from there. That's not this. This would be a little bit different. So it's basically just for specific food service management companies and vendors. So what I will go over first here is in the application for those of you that are applicable for. In the application that was already gone over by other specialists today, if you are a sponsor of multiple sites, questions 1 and number 2, if those are completed, if either one is a yes, then the vendor tab will show up. So if you've completed this and it's no to both of these, then this vendor tab will not show up. Okay. And then if you are an independent center, then you will complete questions 22 and 23. So it just depends on what type of sponsor, but basically the questions are the exact same. So just for reference, keep that in mind. Okay. So let's go to the vendor tab. So let's say you completed each of those, and one of those was a yes. So generally speaking, what's going to happen is the vendor name is going to pull over from when you completed those questions from the application. So in this case, Twinkle Toes pulled over. You want to make sure that the contact information for the food service management company is listed here. We have the email address, job title, phone number, etc. Um, and then here, I'm just getting my notes here. And then what you're going to do, put here. And again, before I look at this, you will have already worked with our office to make sure that the food service management, basically the contract or the agreement that you put together is okay. So this you'll have already worked with our office here. But basically, you're going to include the information for it. So the initial year of the contract type, which is either fixed price or a fee plus a cost. We'll put in the optional years to renew, up to 5 years. And then we'll have the effective date here of the initial contract type. Will be the signing date that was signed, and then the end date for that renewal for the contract. And then will contract be renewed for the current year? And then this will be something if early termination is done, this will be completed then. And then information, basically you can upload contract information, other supporting documentation for that kind of a food service management company vendor. Okay. And this may only apply to just a handful of you that are in the training today. So again, if you are just purchasing, food and then preparing it on site, this won't apply to you. So basically, it's just for those that have procured a food service management company, not to be confused. If you are again receiving food from a school on the food program or a childcare center or a sponsor that's on the food program. Okay. All right. And that should cover those 4 tabs that I was going to go over.
Devin, there's one in the chat or in the Q&A.
Okay.
If you're able to answer it live before I try to type something,
Yes, let me open that up. Let's see if I can get it. If I can get it to work. Okay, so Matt Anderson says, so we would put meal vendors like JA Food, Cisco, Nicholas, etc. I selected no on FSMC, but yes on vendor. The vendor tab still asks for FSMC contract info. Maybe it should read vendor FSMC, or is it just not pulling non-recognized vendor over? I think you're right, Matt. I think the terminology is just a little bit different. So I think, although if it's not pulling a recognized vendor over, then I should have mentioned that you'll basically put that in. So when you're completing in the application who it will be, it'll ask you who it is, and you'll indicate no, that there isn't one. Then it will actually make it so that this is fillable right here. So right now it's not fillable because I've chosen in the application which vendor will be being used. But if there is not one listed in the application tab, then you will manually put that in. Okay. I hope that answered that question.
And Devin, his question about whether or not the JA Foods, Cisco, and Nicholas are vendors rep versus a food service management company, we may need to address that separately because of the requirements of why he had to do a procurement for them. May
Okay.
change what he's putting in there.
Good. Thanks, Louise. So yeah, so we can just work with you individually on how that needs to be put into the vendor section or even possibly the application section, whether it's number 1 or 2, or if you're the other type of sponsor, number 22 or number 23. Okay.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Louise. Okay. Any other questions on any of the tabs that I've gone over, specifically more or less vendor? Okay. All right, Nicole.
Okay. We just covered the whole application, everybody. Thank you so much. Devin, do you mind stopping sharing your screen just for a second? Thank you. So hopefully that gave you a good feel for PrimeroEdge. You're feeling a little more comfortable navigating around those who were able to. I know we still have some people who have been working on user access the entire time, so we will follow up with those as we are able. Um, I do want to address there is one question in the chat that I think will be good for everyone to hear. The question is, are all applicants required to update the CMP permanent agreement? And we are getting new permanent agreements this year. I've seen some people in the chat that they received an email about that, maybe through Adobe Sign. If you haven't, I will follow up to see what we need to do to get those sent out. But we're getting those all signed through Adobe Sign. They need to be signed by the sponsor and then signed by our director. So I did see one chat question that was kind of wondering where it went after they signed it, and it might be sitting on our director's desk as she is signing for all of our sponsors this year, both CACFP and school programs. So when those get signed, we will send them back to you. So you'll have one with all the signatures on it. And that is something you will need to upload into the Documents tab separately. So that's just one example of something you might be adding to your application there. So I've answered that question, and then I see some other user questions that are still we're figuring out. As far as follow-up after this, we have made note of a couple of things that I know some sponsors saw that we weren't anticipating, or they didn't see that we thought they would. And so we will be following up with PrimeroEdge on those items. And then again, as soon as we've got that user manual ready to go and all of the links in there and finalized, we will send that out for everyone. So you'll have that as a resource when this recording is edited and all put together so we can string together both of the breakout rooms and all of that. It will also be posted, and we will send that out as soon as we can. You do not need to wait for those resources to come out to continue working on your application if you would like to do so. And the other thing I do want to just remind also is we've got 140 sponsors that are completing this application, and so our specialists will be helping people through them. But I do want to encourage you to make sure you're using those resources when we've got them all linked up and available to you. Please refer to this recording and the manual first, because a lot of questions can be answered there, and then reserve time with a specialist or one-on-one phone call or something like that with questions that aren't provided or answered in the materials that we've got. That will make sure that we have availability within our team and to give the best customer service that we can to you as you're working on your application. So thank you all for coming today. Thank you for staying 5 extra minutes. This is what we've got for you. We will send out notification when we've got other materials available, and we will follow up as needed one-on-one with Q&As that came through and other information that we get from PrimeroEdge. So thank you everyone for joining today. We appreciate seeing all of you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Are you okay if I end the meeting now, Nicole?
Yeah, I was just going to say we can just end the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you.